can start again. Good. I just turned my mic on. Good evening and welcome to the 542nd meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission. If you wish to be heard at this meeting, please sign the speaker list provided on the table at the side of the council chamber. The chairman reserves the right to limit the amount of time each speaker has for each agenda item. Ms. Green, if you would please call the roll.
Councilman Smalls, Mr. Walford, Mr. Williford, Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Kish,
Here.
Chairwoman Bettman.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, approval of the minutes from the July 12th, 2016 meeting. Has everyone received the minutes and reviewed them?
Received them, and I'll make a motion that we approve them.
Second.
Ms. Green, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Kish,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Chairwoman Bettman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, variance application number 861, 332 Laurel Avenue, filed by Ms. Felicia Hyatt for recommendation to the Board of Appeals. And Ms. Green, I'm sorry, Kristen, if you could hold 1 second. Ms. Green, could we note that? Welcome. Okay, thank you. Kristen?
Not a problem. Good evening. The applicant is seeking variance approval at 332 Laurel Avenue. The property was constructed in 1924 and is zoned R55, one family detached, and it currently meets all zoning requirements for single-family yards. The applicant is seeking approval for the following: to reduce the yard maintenance for her property, to reduce the required yard regulations for the width of a single-family lot. According to our zoning code, section 20-6.16, in the R55 zone requires a minimum width of a lot of 65 feet, and the applicant is proposing 50 feet for her lot and proposing another lot to have 50-foot frontage as well. Currently, her property has a width of 100 square feet. Reducing the width side would allow the applicant to proceed and obtain approval to subdivide the property in order to create another parcel to be sold and have another single-family home constructed on a new conforming lot. Currently, her lot is conforming, but if the variance was approved, it would make 2 non-conforming illegal lots within the city. Unfortunately, the application does not meet the criterion for granting variances. Also, according to our code, section 20-6.27A, required lot area to be maintained of the code states, a lot of record which conform to the provisions of this article or amendment thereafter which affects its conformity shall not be reduced in any manner which would make it non-conforming. Therefore, staff recommends that the City of Laurel Planning Commission recommend denial to the City of Laurel Board of Appeals for variance number 861.
Thank you, Christian. Any questions for staff?
Excellent discussion in the memorandum.
Any questions? No. I would just like to note that I had a couple questions that I would like to share that I had asked and got answered. And one was the lot at any point deemed 2 separate lots? Because we do know that within the city, we have some smaller lots. And I learned from one of the neighbors some of the history of the lot, that there was actually a schoolhouse on that lot in the early 1900s. But that at no time in the city records can we find that it was actually 2 lots. Because I wanted to make sure that, it wasn't a double lot that had gone to a single and gone to a double. So I just wanted to let you know that I had checked that. Having no questions for staff, we do have 3 people signed up. What I would like to do is first offer the applicant the opportunity to speak. Ms. Hyatt, would you like to speak, or would you like Mr. Benefield to speak first? Please. Thank you. If you would come, please state your name and address.
Good evening.
Welcome.
How are you tonight? My name's Greg Benefield. I'm with Surveys, Inc. We're at 350 Main Street, Laurel, Maryland, 20707. Kind of the engineers and helping her out with the application. Let me start off first with when I first applied for this variance, actually I applied for two of them at the same time. I got a courtesy call from Robert, and I'm terrible at his last name, Nesmith, who's no longer. Yes, and he had let me know that, well, we had stopped taking in variance applications at this point. Well, so I had called both clients and let them know that. And then about a week later, I got a call from Mr. Brock saying you can go ahead with these variances. I normally run things by staff and zoning before I make official applications. Kind of nice to get a feeling of what they may recommend and not. So I called back my two clients and said they're going to accept these. And normally with that, I kind of figure, okay, well, he's going to go ahead with this. We're not asking too much in variance-wise, except for one variance. But that has already been settled and approved. So that being said, let me get to the neighborhood, the lot itself or the block itself. There's no date on the record plat. But it's on or around 1870, as the logo's up there, the emblem. And along her street, until it ends to commercial, as you go towards Route 1, there are 12 lots, 12 houses. Out of the 12, 9 of them are similar shape, similar size. Anywhere from 50, actually, if you see the house up there on to the right, that's a 46-foot lot, along with the next one adjacent to that is also 46 feet wide. So it's very much in character of what's in here, and that's not only on the block, but it's across the street, it's on the next block. I could go on and on. I do a lot of stuff in Laurel. The whole city is similar to this. I don't know, I submitted documents. I'm not sure how much you received, but I have.
I believe we do.
Yeah, we have that.
We do have
We
all
have
of
Okay.
those. Okay.
I saw
And
that.
I actually go back to research. I grew up in Laurel. I love Laurel. So I went back to do research when these actually started. The earliest one I got is 1887. It's subdivided. These lots, when the subdivision was created, somewhere around 1870, there's no date on the plat, were 9300, 9300, 93, basically all along until Route 1. So, and basically, over the years, they have been cut up. And I've got deed dates anywhere from 1887 all the way up to more current dates. For 120 years, they've allowed these lots to be cut in half. Now, I don't know when zoning, City of Laurel zoning and subdivisions came into play. I don't know if variances were required for these. I do know that as far as character of the neighborhood, it fits. We're not asking for anything out of the ordinary. The only thing we're asking for is 2 variances. And because it's a rectangle lot, we're shy of 50 feet, we're shy of 15 feet. And on rectangle lots, that also covers at the building width at the building restriction line. Naturally, that's going to be 15 feet variance. So, lot area is fine. It is over 6,500 square feet. It's just a street frontage. And seeing how it's been allowed for the last 121 years, I was kind of hoping that it would be granted today. And that's basically all I have to say. Do you have any questions?
Let me see. Questions?
I have none.
My question is, you said 9 are similarly situated.
Out of 12.
Out of the 12, they are, from your professional survey position, they are 50 or shorter on that side?
Yep. I can actually have one where I wrote down the dimensions on a lot of them.
No, that's your job, and because that's what I was, when I was walking around, I was trying to figure
And the two
size
right
wise.
next to adjacent on the right, up in the picture, are only 46 feet wide. Must have been a 93-foot lot, 46 and a half.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hyatt, would you like to, if you would please state your name and address for the record? Thank you.
Hyatt, 332 Laurel Avenue. Just thank you for allowing me just to read the statements, just to initially just even explain why the request or how the request came about. And one of the documents that I will share, I just asked that for that document back and also just for my privacy to be retained. Over the past years, I've encountered a number of progressively significant financial challenges that have impeded my ability to meet multiple financial obligations. I originally purchased my home as marital property, which allowed for two incomes to support the financial and maintenance obligations of owning my home. This is no longer the case as my ex-husband has relocated to his country and estranged himself from all joint financial obligations. This, of course, resulted in a number of deficiencies, one primarily being my inability to pay our mortgages as they became due, which is the primary reason for my request this evening. Note I said primary. Only this year have I been able to resolve a $22,000 deficit of the first mortgage. However, I have not been able to do this with the second, and I am attempting to avoid losing my home altogether as I have already exhausted time and resources with mortgage modification requests, which have been denied, and with attorney fees. Although I am sharing the specifics of these delinquencies for informational purposes, as I mentioned, I'm going to share a document just to ask that you please keep this document to yourself. In addition to that, as I mentioned, there was a primary reason, but I've recently also, my mother now lives with me. That wasn't something that happened originally, and I'm helping her basically also kind of supplement a number of issues with respect to her health. So given these primary situations, and there are others, basically I'm simply not able at this time, nor do I have the resources to maintain my property in the physical nor financial sense as I have in the past. I appreciate your careful consideration of these circumstances in favor of my request.
Is that a financial document?
It's a statement. It is of the second mortgage.
You can keep that.
Okay.
You can keep
It
that.
just says what the current
No,
status is and a
you-
dollar amount. I appreciate
Is there
that.
anyone here that needs,
No.
no,
Unless you-
I don't
okay.
want
no,
to say it.
nope, you're fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Nope, you're fine.
So, I do
but
have a question.
Mr. Wilson,
So your intention for subdividing it is to sell off the other lot?
Yes,
Okay,
for residential,
well, it's
Development.
residentially zoned,
certainly,
but that's your intention?
certainly.
Okay, thank you.
and would you be building on that, or you're saying selling that? Because it is, I just want to confirm with staff, this is historic district, which means if it were approved here and then the Board of Appeals, if a house went on, it would then all go through the Historic District Commission. That is correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Christopher Pohl, welcome. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Pohl, 334 Laurel Avenue. I'm on the property on the right-hand side of Ms. Hyatt's property. And I just wanted to clarify a few questions, issues. It's currently a 100-foot lot, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and the request is to divide it 50-50. Okay. And I'm just curious if the applicant has indicated whether the potential sale is an arm's length or arm length sale. Okay. And you asked the question the other question I have is to whether or not intended to develop the lot, whether yourself or to sell the lot. That's it.
Thank you. One question, if the applicant, I think the question is, do you already have a buyer for that lot? Yeah. Okay.
I have a question. Mr. Pohl, are you opposed to this or are you for it?
I have no objection to it one way or the other, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm on the right side. It doesn't directly impact me in the sense that the boundary that I share is not, affected. I have that 46-foot lot, so, but I really don't have a
Okay,
preference one way or the other.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
I have I have, yes,
Want to
Greg,
redirect?
please. Thank
Greg
you.
Benefield with Surveys, Inc. If this were subdivided, I had submitted another sketch that both lots would still comply with the off-street parking.
Is that this one? Okay,
Yes, that it can
yes.
be done.
Yes.
And actually, if we get a builder, I can actually probably get him to build the driveway. So,
Thank you. Mr. Paul?
Not having had the opportunity to review the file, do you mind if I look? at
Greg?
that?
oh, not at all.
There you go. You can take that back with you if you want. See that?
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
So, if I could ask some questions.
Absolutely.
So for Ms. Pooley. So what we're dealing with here fundamentally is, the variance really is for the setback on the sides of the home.
That is correct.
So to be able to put in a home, to get the kind of square footage you'd need, you'd have to go closer to the lot line than it's allowed. That's really the only variance. Everything else,
No, I don't
They're-
think so. He's still gonna put his 8
They're
feet.
trying-
The building restriction line and the width of the street, we will still maintain the 8-foot side.
Yeah, he's still gonna need.
They will meet all setback requirements. They're trying to get the reducing of the width for the front
From
of the lot.
50 from 65 to
50
50.
feet.
Okay.
That is correct.
The street and the building.
thank you. I just want to make sure that what the issue
That
is.
apply to both lots?
Correct. Thank you.
The current home, why don't you come up to, just so we can get it on TV? The current home is,
That would also conform to the side
it
yard.
conforms today on Mr.
both-
Pohl's side.
Yes.
Obviously on the
Well,
other side.
obviously on one side.
Yeah, so he's, with Mr. Pohl's lot, the house is within the 8-foot, it's outside the 8-foot boundary, right?
Yes.
So we're not, that house is in conformance. We cut the lot in half, then which would be the west side of the lot, I've got your drawing.
Okay.
On the west side of Ms. Hyatt's lot, what would be her new lot, there would be 8-foot
8-foot on both sides.
setback there. So everything's cool. Any new construction, we got to take this in steps. So any new construction would come back in front of some group to approve it. I don't know what the order would be between the historic district. I don't think it would come back to us because we've already granted the variance, right?
I happen to know somebody who builds houses that you've already approved and that this.
Yeah, we so it's not going to come back to us if we approve this, right?
If it's approved, it would have to come back because she would still have to subdivide the parcels.
Oh, for the subdivision,
Right.
but not for a variance on a new.
No.
So what I'm trying to do for everybody
It could be
is separate out the steps, right? So we're being asked to approve a variance. Then there'll be another step with subdivision, which would be run through Mr. Brock's department. And then at some point, whoever the new owner is of the lot, which I don't believe would be Ms. Hyatt, she would sell the lot, which is the whole purpose of this. And then whoever was coming forward with the house, we wouldn't have to see that again because then it's already approved as part of the subdivision, right?
That is
would be a
correct.
site development plan for a permit.
Would we have to do a site development plan?
No,
Not as long as it's
I
conforming.
think he's speaking.
That's handled in staff.
That is handled at the staff level. It would only have to go to the Historic District Commission for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. You're welcome. Mr. Pohl.
I am curious to know that, whether the property on the left, I'm not sure the address, but
On the west side.
on the west side, what the distance is between that property line and the house that exists on that property.
Yeah, but it's in conformance by definition because it lives.
Well, that's why I'm not arguing the conformance issue. I was just curious as to.
Yeah, I have.
It is, whether it's in conformance or not, it
Kimberly's
is.
old house, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know her last name. I don't even know if she still owns the home.
Kimberly,
She still owns it.
yeah.
It's
She
right.
I can't
rents it,
remember her last
yeah.
name.
So
Okay.
okay.
Thank you. I have no one signed up. No one else signed up to speak. Is there someone else that would like to speak? Welcome. If you would please approach the microphone. Here, if you would then state your name and your address for the record, please. And then, Sarah, do I just write it here?
She'll get it.
Okay. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. My name is Akbar, last name Fakhar. I own the property on 44 Washington Boulevard.
44 Washington Boulevard?
It's almost on the corner of Route 1 and Main Street. It's almost
Okay.
there. And I have a tenant, actually I have 3 tenants, and they are very low traffic, and I have 1 tenant, and I'm trying to get 2 tenants on the first floor.
Mr. Firk, I'm sorry. Is this in reference to 332 Laurel Avenue?
No.
Okay, right now, the agenda item in front of us that we're working on, okay? Thank you very much. Right, okay. Thank you, if you will hold. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on variance application number 861, 332 Laurel Avenue, filed by Ms. Felicia Hyatt for recommendation to the Board of Appeals? Hearing and seeing none, and if there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion.
Yes, Madam Chair. Originally when I reviewed the package, I was willing to accept staff's. I think it was an excellent technical staff report, and I understand the way our ordinance is written that this is 65 feet. I'm inclined at this point, though, to find for the applicant. The reason being is, I've always been, my personal opinion is I don't like to, as long as everybody's willing to play within the rules, not to impede, somebody doing with their property within the rules. The 65 foot was picked at some point. I don't know when that, do you know the date of that ordinance, when that would have gone into effect? It's somewhere back. I've heard this number. I've been part of this for 20 years, so it was before my time. So I think, the fact that, I have a 50-foot lot. I know Mr. Pohl has a narrow lot. There's lots of narrow lots there. I think it'll be upon us if we did approve this to then manage the new property that's on there. But the ability to be able to subdivide this and have a property owner be able to do that within our process. I mean, we've allowed this at other places around town, both historically and fairly recently. We've been for large developments, big townhouse developments, we've increased density. If you look at what we've done just down the street here with the townhouse development that's gone in there, that kind of density is just, I think, personally in our future. And, I live on this block, and again, I was originally opposed to this, but at this point, I will move to approve, to find for the applicant and to approve the request for variance.
Do I have a second? Am I allowed to second? Am I allowed to second a motion? Okay. I will step down as chair, ask John to assume the chair position in order to second Mr. Wilson's recommendation to find for the applicant and the variance. So if you want to ask Ms. Green to call the roll.
Would you call the roll, Ms. Green, please?
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Chair, or Mrs. Bettman?
Yes.
Mr. Walford?
No.
Mr. Kish?
No.
So my understanding of the rules.
Motion fails.
Motion fails on a tie? Okay. Okay.
So,
You gotta
do I
take the chair back.
resume? I will resume the chair. Thank you, Mr. Kish. Staff has confirmed that a tie, and this is the first time that I can recall in my tenure, is we have a tie, that the motion fails. So do we need another motion?
No,
How do we, so what goes to the Board of Appeals? Does it have to be tabled until our next meeting till we have 5? Because if we have a motion to go with staff report, potentially we're going to then have a tie vote again.
The motion that was presented failed. You're a recommending body to the Board of Appeals. So when I prepare the recommendation to the Board of Appeals, it'll say that, a motion was made and seconded and failed the vote, and then the Board of Appeals will have their hearing.
So they automatically get it regardless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So basically, it is going forward to the Board of Appeals with no recommendation, or the facts of what occurred here will go forward to the Board of Appeals, and it will be heard by the Board of Appeals. Is that correct?
Yeah, September 22nd.
On September 22nd, which is better for you than us tabling it until the next time. Okay?
Madam Chair, if I could just explain why I voted the way I did.
Certainly.
Briefly. Over the past 10 days that I've had to review this application and give it a lot of thought and drive by the property and observe what's going on there, what the plan was and everything, I agreed with staff 100% on their recommendation. One thing is where staff commented that it would set a precedent that to have non-compliant parcels within the city. And that made me feel that I was in agreement with staff's recommendation, and also that we weren't only making one lot that was not in accordance with the regulations, but we were creating two of them. And that had something to do with it too. And that it could possibly be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of adjoining neighboring properties. And I know you have a neighbor here that doesn't feel one way or the other, but I mean, I've seen a lot of this. I've lived here since 1951. I've seen so many places in the neighborhoods in the historic district that have been crunched in with houses squeezed on every little lot that can be found. And I know it's been done before, and it might even be done again in the future. But for now, I just didn't think that it was a good fit, and I was in agreement with the staff. So that's why I voted the way I did.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 4, text amendment number 242, ordinance number 1877, an ordinance to amend Laurel City Code, Chapter 20, Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, Article 1, Zoning, to amend Division 1 in general, Division 3, City Planning Commission, Division 4, Board of Appeals, Division 5, Zoning Districts, Division 6, Parking and Loading Facilities, Division 7, Signs and Advertising Structures, Division 9, Exceptions and Supplements to Zone Regulations, to add, did I stay on the right one? To add Section 20-20.9, Small Wind Energy Systems, Division 13, Historic District Commission, to add Section 20 to 25.9, Prevention of Demolition by Neglect, and repealing in its entirety Division 16, Community Design Standards, amending Laurel City Code, Chapter 20, Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, to add Appendix D, Parking Modification Zone, and providing an effective date for recommendation to the mayor and city council. Mr. Brock, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. If you recall, during the preparation of the master plan, there was a moratorium on zoning items and text amendments. We have been collecting issues and changes for the past 18, 19 months. which is why it's so large. Going through first, a lion's share of this is adding new definitions. This is an update of the ordinance where we have had new uses that have come into being, but that they're not reflected in the code. So you have 6 pages of new definitions. The City Planning Commission is being amended to add a vice chairman. Currently, it doesn't require a vice chairman. So in the instance of the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals, this would be adding a vice chairman to each board. It also amends the table of uses. This reflects the new uses that are contained within the definitions. Parking modification zones. Currently, you have a parking modification zone that identifies the area around Main Street. Because of the history of the property and the lack of parking, the Mayor and City Council approved the parking modification zone. What is contained here would allow staff to provide parking modification up to these percentages if it's in an identified parking modification zone, which would prevent it from having to come back to you every time someone on Main Streets needs a parking modification. Additionally, it adds language for departure for the number of parking spaces required. This would be within any zone within the city. Currently, there is no provision for any parking modification other than the parking modification zone on Main Street that I just mentioned. We're amending the sign regulations to reduce the size of window signs and to limit the period of time that temporary signs can be held. We're adding small wind energy systems. Although we have not had any applications to date, a council member thought it would be prudent if we would get ahead of the curve and go ahead and amend the code to provide for that use. Prevention of demolition by neglect. This would be in the historic district that would prevent an individual from letting a historic structure deteriorate rather than repair it. This would require that they repair it. If they don't, the city could go in, stabilize it, and lien the property for the cost to stabilize. Community design standards. Initially, this was requested to be entirely deleted. This was changed last evening by the mayor and city council. They wanted to delete the Community Design Review Committee. That committee has only met once since the inception of this section.
Jack, I'm sorry, can I stop you real quick?
Yes.
So what you're saying the mayor and city council recommended changing last night, is that something we do or don't have here?
You do not have it.
Can you point to what page
Yes.
that is so that
You're
we
on
can?
page 18.
Page 18. Okay, and
It had community design standards removed in its entirety. The commission would like to keep the intent, the application, the standards for design and maintenance of good appearance, and delete the Community Design Review Committee, which, like I say, has met once in 5 years, and provided very little help in aesthetics. Now, if you're in an MXT, or if you're in a historic district, or if you're in an overlay district, then you do have the prerogative of reviewing it for aesthetics. So this retains the standards for review and just abolishes the review committee. And finally, the parking modification zone that I mentioned, it was in the master plan. It was removed from the master plan and is being included in the Unified Land Development Code. If the council wanted to change, to add to or delete from the modification zone, they would have to go through the master plan process in order to do that. This way, by having it in the zoning code, then they would just have to amend this map, which would just be a text amendment. And that is the text amendment in its entirety.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bra?
I have one.
Mr. Wilson?
We've talked in the past, I can't remember the name of the applicant, but the funeral home across from Denny's.
Mm-hmm.
And
Pruitt.
what was the name?
I think it was Pruitt, right?
Yes.
I noticed that the parking zone here doesn't extend, I don't believe it extends down Washington Boulevard to that area. I mean, by design, I mean, I just was curious on, how did you decide where to stop the,
On the parking modification map,
I'm just
On
looking at this
D.
map
Oh.
on page 19.
that was decided by the mayor and city council some time ago.
Okay, so this has been in effect before?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, for years.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Jack, could you go over that,
Can you turn your mic on, please?
sorry.
Thank you.
Jack, could you go over that, demolition by neglect?
That is applicable to the historic district. That is an instance where you have a structure that is, say it's open to the elements, there's a hole in the roof, it's deteriorating, and in spite of the fact that we cite the property owner for property maintenance, they continue to let the property deteriorate. So this would allow the city to go in and stabilize the property in an attempt to prevent the loss of the structure.
If there is a structure as such, should this be reported? It's just gradually going down. And I know what the reason is for this, but beautiful house, and it's an old house.
In my recollection, I only recall 2 instances that this has occurred where people have just let the property deteriorate.
But what you're saying is first the city would attempt to stabilize,
That's correct.
but the word in it is demolition is the word you're kind of hanging on, right?
Are you talking about a specific piece of property, John?
Yes.
Okay, so
It's
is
a
it in the
large
historic
piece of
district?
property, yeah.
Okay. So any citizen can report.
Yes.
So the one I recall from long ago was like at Knapp's, the old Knapp's building, right? It was falling apart. I
Yes.
think they were cited numerous times, but it was economically more favorable for that building to get to the point where it wasn't reasonable to repair it, and they just paid the tickets or whatever the
That's
citations
correct.
were. So this prevents that. At some point, I don't know what the trigger is, but at some point, then the city can go, we're going to go fix it and put a lien in.
That's correct.
Does this say what the trigger is? The historic district has to decide.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I do not currently have anyone signed up for this agenda item. Is there anyone wishing to speak on the text amendment? Hearing and seeing no one, I am open for a motion. And, I believe, and you would include the change that,
It's annotated, right?
no,
Yeah, on page 18?
No, it's not contained in the
it's not in
okay.
what we
Let
have.
me give this a try and see if Sarah tells me I did it wrong.
Thank you.
So I'll move to approve text amendment number 842, ordinance number 1877, as outlined in the staff report with the addition of the changes, the recent changes on page 18, division 16, community design standards, to change the way the Community Design Standards Committee works, basically.
Yes, sir.
That works there?
Yep.
There you go.
I'll second that.
Ms. Green, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Kish?
Yes.
Mr. Walford?
Yes.
Chairwoman Bettman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have no other agenda items. I know that we have a person that wants to speak, but I believe
Probably need to talk to
that
Mayor,
staff, can he come over and talk to you as soon as we adjourn for a moment? I think it wouldn't be proper for you to come to the public record at this point. You'll talk to staff. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming this evening, and we would like to congratulate the great uncle of a gold medal winner at the Olympics,
Yeah.
Kyle Snyder, who is Billy's great nephew, correct? Won a gold medal at the recent Olympics in wrestling. Have you seen the gold medal yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
To me, the thing more remarkable than winning the gold medal is that he did it at 20 years old.
20 years
20
old, that's
years old.
correct.
That's remarkable.
In wrestling. So, congratulations, and share our congratulations with them.
I will. Thank you.
The meeting is adjourned.